So on today's episode, we're digging into what we wish we knew when we were trying to conceive. And really for me, I was told my only option was to have my children with donor eggs. I had no clue about these health issues I was dealing with that were linked to my premature ovarian failure. So if you're still cycling naturally, there's things we can do to help. But, functional medicine, natural fertility solutions, they were not even on my radar. And so for today, I wanted to dig into, what we wish we knew when we were trying to conceive. And that's why I started this podcast to really educate you. And hopefully during the episodes, you get that aha moment where you're like, oh, wait a minute, damn, what's this thing that's going on in my body? Or I have that too. Let's dig a little bit deeper because conventional medicine is obviously part of the solution, but also looking at functional medicine, natural fertility solutions, mind body therapies. There's a whole other side of things that are missed if we just go running straight towards conventional medicine. So today's guests, they actually have both of a background in conventional medicine themselves. And then they both had a struggle with fertility, and then were able to look at things differently when they brought in natural holistic solutions. So definitely hope you get some ahas from this episode and being able to look at things a little differently. And that's it. Hey there, I regularly speak with 5 to 10 couples per week who are struggling to have their baby. And although we want to help everyone, we only have 2 spots available per month to work with us. So the Supercharger Fertility Discovery Call is for action takers and really people who are ready to move forward so they can finally have their baby. And if you're not ready and you wait, the risk is you'll need to wait 2 to 3 months for a spot to open up. So if you're seriously considering working with us, go to FabFertile, FABfertile.com and click on book a free call. Then you'll be all booked in and ready to spend 30 minutes to give you the action plan to getting pregnant naturally. That's FabFertile, FABfertile.com, and click on book a free call.
If you're going to a provider and you're not getting the answers that you want, or if you feel dismissed, or if you feel like they're not listening to you, it's okay to go to somebody else. I mean, I see people all the time that are like, well, I'm scared to leave seeing this person. What are they going to think? And I'm like, it's your health. You have to take your health into your own hands.
Welcome to Get Pregnant Naturally, where functional medicine and natural fertility solutions will help you get pregnant and have your baby. Hey everyone, I'm Sarah Clark. My mission is to inspire, motivate, and empower you. Most of all, I want you to wake up. So with functional medicine, we can discover what causes infertility and eventually reverse the condition. Today, I'm welcoming Julie, Davey, and Kari Koody to the podcast, and we're digging into what we wish we knew when we were trying to conceive. Julie is a Christian, wife, and mom of twins. She's also a nurse practitioner and a natural health educator with over 20 years experience in healthcare. She received her undergraduate degree from the Medical College of Georgia and a graduate degree from Emory University. She's been caring for patients in the area of cardiovascular medicine for over 20 years. Julie also holds a faculty position at Emory University educating future nurse practitioners. And both of these ladies are sisters. So Kari just knew she loved to serve others, especially in healthcare. So she went to pharmacy school. With the best intentions, she set out in the working world. She soon realized the system was really broken, and she wanted to be part of the solution, not the problem. She had her first child, a little girl, and that really set a fire in her to do things a little different than the norm. Her searching led to bringing essential oils into their lives. Check out their website at anaturalshift.com. That's anaturalshift.com. And before we jump into today's show, don't forget to hit the subscribe button on iTunes or wherever you're listening to us to make sure you never miss an episode. Hey, Kari and Julie, excited to have you on the podcast. This is the first time I've interviewed 2 people together.
Thank you. We are excited to be on.
Yeah, awesome. So if you could both share your journeys as to how you came to this work. I find most people, it's not usually I know definitely for me, it wasn't something that was planned as to how I became into the fertility field and functional medicine. So for you, how did you come to this line of work?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is Julie here. I'll share first and then I'll let Kari share as well.
Yeah.
So I'm a nurse practitioner and I've been doing that for almost 20 years now. Probably about 6 to 7 years ago, I kind of transitioned more into a holistic approach, really just kind of seeing patients, clients, what some of the traditional medicine, not that I don't think that there is a place for that by any means, there is for sure, but what some of the traditional medications that we use, some of the side effects that they cause, and that really, just made me look at health in a little bit of a different way, so to speak, and really want to dive into more holistic options. That's really when actually both of us were introduced to essential oils. Kari can tell you her story in just a minute. She introduced me, actually. And then after that, we just really started educating, the community, friends, family, using them on our family, and just kind of it grew from there. I'm really big into nutrition as well, and how we fuel our body and how important that is. That's what my passion is now. Now I still do, practice traditional medicine 1 day a week, to maintain my skills. I see patients in a cardiology practice, but my true passion is for holistic health.
Awesome. Yeah, I love essential oils, and obviously, digging into the nutrition side of things. So it's interesting kind of coming from that conventional background and then being open to this, because sometimes we don't even see it's not even on our radar.
Yes.
Yeah.
So true. I'm going to pass the mic to Kari and let her tell you kind of her story as well.
Yes, this is Kari, and I don't know if we mentioned, but we are sisters. Not sure if that was mentioned, but anyway, it's so awesome to do this together and to be on here together. So we appreciate you having us on, Sarah. So I entered the pharmacy profession as a pharmacy technician almost 20 years ago. Gosh, that really makes me seem old, but I was 16. So I got into that because I needed to find a job, first of all, but I really just loved the service aspect of it. And so that's why I decided to continue on and go to pharmacy school and get my license and become a pharmacist. And I really do still love serving people, but what I realized when I got out of school was that I might not be serving people in the greatest capacity that I could. And I saw a lot of flaws in the medical system. As we all know, it's pretty broken as far as the fact of we should be kind of covering 80% of our needs through self-care and taking care of our own bodies through, several different ways. And then 20% should be left up to the medical world, but it's actually flipped. Mm-hmm. And so I saw the prescription rate rise dramatically in even the time that I had went through pharmacy school until I got out and practiced on my own. So just those few things, kind of got me thinking, my wheels turning at least. And then, I started trying to conceive my first child, and it took me 2 years. So I know we'll kind of get into that a little bit later, but that's, I think, the first time it crossed my mind, like, I just don't have the options that I want to have. So there's got to be another way to take care of myself. I started looking at diet and things like that. But after I conceived her, when you have a child, it really does change a lot of things. And so that's when I really began my journey to looking for a different option. And she was about 9 months old, and I found essential oils, and it was really the missing piece for me, as far as just diet, exercise, and then having the tools to take care of our body. So I didn't really set out to do much with it other than just take care of myself and my family, but everybody was really wanting to know more. And so I found that I really love serving people in that way. And that's kind of how it brought me to where I am now. As far as I left my full-time job about 3 years ago, and as I still do practice pharmacy, just like Julie does, once or twice a month, and just to keep my license. And I still like serving people in that capacity. But really my true passion is helping people take care of their self and their family in a more natural way.
I love that. Yeah. And so because you both come from the conventional medicine paradigm, so why do you feel that you were, what was the kind of the point where you realized there was something else? Sometimes we don't even see this. And it's funny because I work with a lot of medical professionals actually that are struggling with infertility, nurses, doctors, and I think they like the functional medicine side of things because we look at testing and then we develop a protocol. But yeah, why were you open to that sort of side of things? And we'll start with Julie.
I think, I've always been very, I think for the most part, I've been health conscious and health minded in terms of, what I put into my body and, exercise and all of that. But like Kari said, there was always this kind of missing piece to, well, what if I do get sick? I don't want to take these, antibiotics or like whatever the case may be. until I discovered essential oils and some other natural tools, I didn't really have another option. And in fact, when my kids were small, mine are a little bit older than Kari's, I didn't have those options available. And I'm so thankful, that I do now. So I kind of really probably felt a lot like Kari, like there was this kind of one missing piece, to the puzzle, or to the kind of the whole circle of, holistic health. And that's what it was for me, to have some type of tool on hand that I could use and really just be my own health advocate. And that's why, education is so important to me, and pouring into the community, to, clients, that they can take their health into their own hands as well, and don't have to be dependent on the medical world, really. Not that there's not a place and a time for that, but if you can reach for a natural tool that works with the body, then why not?
Yeah, absolutely. And I like that. You've probably heard of the healing roundtable from Dr. Oz, where it's like you have in this case, your RE, your OBGYN, plus your nutritionist, your fertility coach, your masseuse, your chiro, your acupuncturist, not, obviously not all at once, but and then you're in the center. So you can then, draw from these people, but we know our body best. And a lot of times we just go straight to the practitioner in the white coat and say, oh, and then we don't even listen to our own body. And we forget there's other practitioners that actually can look at this thing a little bit differently.
Mm-hmm. And that's a really good point, Sarah. A lot of patients that I see, because they're so used to the traditional medical world, they do come in, like you said, and say, here's what I'm experiencing. What's wrong with me? Now give me something for it.
Yeah.
Basically, I mean, that's, in kind of a nutshell. And so I'm constantly saying, you have to tell me how you feel. I don't know how your body feels. You know your body better than I do. And for a lot of them, I can see it's like a totally new concept. It's like, no, I came in to tell you this, and then I want you to figure out what it is. And, not that that's not our responsibility, is to help, but we have to partner with the patients and, and the clients. It's not I know it all. Here's what's wrong with you, take this medication. So it's always just an education. I'm constantly educating, like, we're partners here. We have to work together, and you have to be a student of your own body, because I don't know the way that you feel or everything that's going on in your body. So I think that concept is new for a lot of people, is that, it's really about partnering with your healthcare provider and being a student of your own body.
Yeah, because in conventional medicine, it's basically to diagnose and then prescribe a pill. Whereas in functional and holistic, it's wait a minute, well, why? Why did it happen? And then let's dig into it. And if we need to use some conventional medicine, fine, but there's other things we can look at as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Getting to the root cause is key. And that's, unfortunately, traditional medicine is really often just a Band-Aid approach. It's not getting at the root cause.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Absolutely. And so, Kari, what's your take with on the other spectrum there with on the pharmacy, which sort of
sure, yeah. I agree definitely with everything Julie said, but I was just thinking, yes, I'm on the other side of that. So when they get the prescription and they come to the pharmacy, I felt deep down that I was just handing out Band-Aids for the most part. Of course, I understand that there are some medications that you can't go without taking. They're very good, to take, and you have to take them. But yet, for the most part, that's when I really, once I looked at that and I realized what I was able to do in my own household, my own health and that of my family, I realized that 90 to 95% probably of these prescriptions, if you were to take care of your body, in the best way that you could. And that's when I knew that I wanted to be part of that solution rather than continue to be a part of just handing out these Band-Aids and not getting to the root cause of what's really going on. And it's just a really bad cyclic effect. It's over and over again. These people they don't come in the pharmacy happy most of the time. They don't necessarily want to be taking these things, but yet they don't know any other way. And just like Julie, at least, that's kind of our mission. We really do just want to educate people so that they have the information, whether they want to act on that or not yet. Maybe they're not ready, but yet they know that there's a different option out there, because I think that's just so important, because I think that is a lot of times what's missing is just that education piece.
Absolutely. That's why I started the Get Pregnant Naturally podcast, to really educate people to say, look, there's another way. Let's look at these things differently.
That's right.
Absolutely. And okay, so both of you experienced some infertility, as from what I understand. Is that right?
Yes.
So did you get stuck on your infertility diagnosis?
Okay, I can go first on that. It was, my daughter's 7 now, so it would have been about 9 years ago. We decided that we wanted to start a family, and I had been on birth control for a number of years. I don't know exactly how many, but probably at least 10, I would say.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So a while, it was something that I didn't know I needed to stop, necessarily. But once I did, you just think you're going to stop it and get pregnant. That's just kind of like, oh, this happens for everybody, and that's how it's going to happen for me. And so I was very frustrated when it didn't happen that fast, and just I went through a lot of growth during that time. So I know that everything happens for a reason, but yet I was just frustrated because I didn't know what to do. I didn't know there was any other options other than taking some type of pill or, having a procedure or something like that. And honestly, that is when I started looking more at my diet, because I had heard that. So that was one of the main things I knew I could do and could control. But I did use some medications for ovulation and things like that. And finally, after about 2 years, they were going to go in and look and see if I had, some type of tissue or endometriosis, things like that. And I actually ended up pregnant when they did the pregnancy test before that procedure, which is interesting that it happened that way. But the thing that I look back and think is there was nothing wrong with me necessarily. And yes, I did get frustrated, but in the back of my mind, I have a strong faith, and it grew a lot during that time. I knew that, that I was going to get pregnant and have a child. I just had that assurance, but yet I just didn't know when. But I think a lot of it came from the birth control, because it threw my body off. Those synthetic hormones, I'm a big advocate for, if you can avoid that at any cost, let's try some other things, natural options in that area. But because I know how long it takes to get out of your system. Mm-hmm. So that's a little bit on my first child. Do you want to go into the kind of what I experienced with my second child? Yes. Okay. So I said I kind of found these natural tools, essential oils and things like that, when she was about 9 months old. And so when we wanted to get pregnant with our second child about a year and a half later, I had already researched. I'd already been taking care of myself better. I was in better health than I was when I first started trying to get pregnant with my daughter. So I knew I was better off there. But I'd also been looking at different oils that I could use that would control my cycle, as far as if it was later, or if it was longer or shorter, or to help with ovulation, things like that. I was able to start a protocol, let's say, of using several oils different ways each day. And I had a few cycles and was able to tweak it and got pregnant within 2 months. So that's 2 years versus 2 months. And just throughout the whole pregnancy, I felt so much better because I was able to just give my body what it needed. So that's kind of my story, as far as, I wouldn't even say it's infertility. It was just a waiting period, It was just a time to kind of get my body where it needed to be, and just flush out the things that were causing it not to be in balance. Yeah.
And being on hormonal birth control, we had Dr. Jolene Brighton on the podcast, and she has a new book that came out in January. Actually, it was banned by some of the mainstream media, because it was talking about post-birth control pill syndrome, all the impacts of basically being on long-term hormonal birth control, which for you at 10 years is definitely long-term for sure, and how it impacts your nutrient levels, and then your ability to absorb minerals, and then also the impact of your gut. So, predisposing you to these food sensitivities and gut infections. So yeah. And then people think that some people obviously go on the pill and get pregnant right away, but some people like you, so I had to wait, 2 years. So not an actual infertility diagnosis, but still struggling nonetheless. And then interesting that you found the oils and diet as well, you said there well, thanks for sharing that. And Julie, what about yourself?
So my infertility journey is quite a bit different. And this is actually a good point, since we were talking about how traditional medicine, we're thankful for it. I'm thankful for it. And this is one of the reasons that I'm thankful for it. So I have twins, a boy and a girl. They're 12, about to be 13. And I did IVF, and it wasn't because there was a functional problem. It's actually a structural problem. So there was no type of, natural tool that would have helped that issue. So I'm super thankful for traditional medicine, or I wouldn't have my 2 amazing kids right now. So again, my journey is a little bit different. But I do also know kind of the power of natural tools and nutrition in balancing your hormones, because that's something that I have had an issue with after the kids were a little bit older. I my periods were really irregular, and then I stopped having periods. This was only about probably 5 years ago.
Okay.
And being in the traditional medical world, I tried to self-diagnose, and I even put myself through multiple different tests. I went to my GYN when I couldn't figure out what was going on, because I was having some other symptoms too. And then of course had stopped having periods. And basically he was like, first I thought I had a pituitary tumor, and then I had an MRI. I mean, it was just like this whole, and then he was like, I'm not really sure why this is happening. I really don't know. And so then I just kind of started thinking like, okay, I need to really like examine further what's going on in my body. Like, stop trying to seek answers from other people. So, I mean, it's kind of a good example of what a lot of people do. And so I can totally relate to this. When you feel a little bit desperate, like I know something's going on, but I don't know what it is. So you're reaching out to people that you think maybe has the answers, but often it's about looking inside at, and again, being a student of your body. So I began to do that more and started to realize that some of the things that I was eating that you might consider healthy foods, I mean, I'm talking about like legumes, like lentils, and grains like quinoa and things like that. I realized that after I eliminated those things, those were causing me a lot of symptoms, really like brain fog, and I wasn't digesting them properly. And I kind of went through that process. My body was also at that time looking back under a lot of stress, which can obviously affect your hormones, and you can mess up your menstrual cycle. So I did start an essential oil protocol at that time also. So I think really examining what was going on in my body, trying to eliminate some of the stress that I was under, using some of the natural tools, then I was able to get my hormones rebalanced and started having regular periods again. So I know that's not necessarily fertility related, but all of it's really kind of hormone, related.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of my story with that.
Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing. And so definitely with the structural side of things, that's when going to the conventional route is you actually were grateful that that's available. I had both my kids with donor eggs. Looking back, I probably didn't need to do that, but at the time, without having science available, my two children would not be here. So yeah, we're grateful to have that available. And then for you, so your hormones kind of took a nosedive after sort of 5 or 6 years in, and with stress, and then looking at essential oils and diet specifically for you to help.
Yes, absolutely. And I was actually just listening to another podcast recently, and the person being interviewed was sharing her journey with infertility, and she was talking about that she had done IVF a couple of times and she still had not gotten pregnant. And during the interview, she said, I think that this is something that when she tried to look into doing IVF, she's like, nobody was talking about it. Like, it was like nobody would talk about, there was no information. Not that there wasn't information about what it was, but like there was nobody out there really talking about like their experience and their journey. And I don't know, it kind of just made me think, probably that needs to be shared more, because it's not something, that you should be ashamed of or not want to talk about. Like I said, I'm super grateful and thankful that was even an option, so.
Mm-hmm, exactly. I've written a book about my story and shared all over the place, because I want someone to sort of hear it and go, wait, that's me. Like, there's symptoms, things that we ignore and think they're normal. And wait a minute, any of these things could be common. Was it, normal, but not common, but not normal?
Yeah.
one of those ones. But yeah, we just think it's part of our body, when wait a minute, there's a reason to kind of dig deeper. So for you, Kari, kind of looking back, were there any clues or signs you think that you missed that would have helped your fertility, if you were kind of like having your little crystal ball there, or kind of not crystal ball, I guess, but sort of, looking back and seeing, is there something that you missed?
Well, I wish I would have known that birth control wasn't a great thing. That's for sure. Of course, with my daughter, I wish I would have had essential oils back then and just known more about my diet. And also, I just have realized how much stress plays a part in all of this. And I must say, I was pretty stressed out at times, during that 2-year waiting period. Toward the beginning, more so because, like I said, I thought it was just going to be so much quicker, and then different other people would get pregnant, and nobody really wants to hear somebody else is pregnant when you're not getting pregnant. So, I just look back and think all those things really played a part in it. But I would say the biggest thing is I wish I would have stopped birth control a little bit earlier.
Mm-hmm. And what about diet? Anything that you discovered there you wanted to share?
Just less processed foods in general. I was still eating things that maybe were even like low fat that I thought were good, and now we just know that fats play such a big role in our hormone regulation. And so I know healthy fats are a huge part of that and keeping ourselves healthy in general, but definitely hormones. So I wish I would have supplemented as well with some type of healthy fat and a good multivitamin, things like that. I think that would have played a big role in that. And just eating real food is definitely a priority now. And I wish it would have been more then.
And essential oils, anything that you know now that you would have, implemented back then?
Sure. Yeah, there's a blend that I really love to use, and I always recommend it if a woman wants to just regulate her hormones in any way. And, there's so many times that people come to us and say, I have this issue going on, and I'm like, oh, it could be because your hormones are off. And a lot of times as women, our hormones are off because it's such a delicate balance. So I love this blend called Clary Calm that doTERRA makes. And it has, things like lavender and Vitex and carrot seed, different things like that. And I actually researched all of those different components of that can affect every part of our cycle and help it all come back to balance. So that was one thing that I wish I would have, had then at least that at the very least. And I always recommend that to other women that can use daily to help balance their hormones.
And I interviewed for my blog a while ago, Stephanie Fritz. I think she's with.
Oh, yes. She's great.
Yeah. So she had a blend that we'd use that you'd use on the abdomen, which was, I think, so it was I thought it was clary sage. And then she had geranium, sweet fennel, lavender, and then rose was an optional one. And then she put it on the abdomen. So for the Clary Calm, where were you putting on the pulse points, or what were you doing there?
You could put on the pulse points or over your reproductive organs, kind of around over your stomach, or actually on the inside of your ankles is a really great place as well. That blend, I think I used each one of those oils differently in different times of my cycle because they kind of control different things is what I researched. So those are all great oils as well.
And your take, I think doTERRA says it's safe to use all cycle. What's with a pharmaceutical background? What are you? Because we sort of say it'd be safe to do it the first half of the cycle. I don't know. What do you?
I see. There were some that I used all month long, like kind of every day. And there was some that I used at the beginning of the cycle, stopped, and then used other ones at the end of the cycle.
Okay.
So I think it just depends on what you're trying to accomplish. But the Clary Calm blend that I was talking about, that's a great general blend. You could use that one every day. Or if you wanted to just use it around your cycle to control like cramps or something like that, you could do that as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So for you, it was more the birth control was kind of, if you had known what you know now, you would do differently. Yeah. There's the Fertility Friday podcast is a cool podcast. Lisa Hendrickson-Jack, and she talks about, she's a fertility awareness educator and talking about, really, and she has a new book called The Fifth Vital Sign, talking about hormonal birth control and really looking at this whole thing differently. And even though the pill has liberated us, I guess, as women, but at what cost?
Yeah, that's right. Has it really liberated us?
Yeah, has it? I know.
It has.
What's it done to our health? It's interesting. I'm reading Melinda Gates' new book. Oh my goodness. At the Moment of Lift, and talking about like poverty and really how she's in developing countries using the pill, because there's so many people with keep having children with like 8, 9, 10 kids. And so they're actually like really strongly advocating to use the pill. And then now there's a movement here in the Western society that, like in North America or Western society, to not have it. So it's interesting that they're like, really pushing it there. And I understand with poverty and trying to break the cycle and empower women, but it was just kind of an interesting take on that as I was reading that.
Yeah, that's true. I know.
Okay. And so Julie, what's your take on any clues or signs that you missed that would have helped your fertility?
I don't really think that there were clues or signs in that regard, but here's what I want to share that I think is really important, and it could be related to anything, not just fertility. So when my husband and I were trying to get pregnant, I was going to my GYN, and we had been trying for, 6 months or maybe a little bit more. And, I expressed, concern, which doesn't sound like a long time, but, when you want to have a baby, it's like, you want to have him now, right? But so, I expressed concern, like, that we weren't getting pregnant. And so at that time, my GYN said, oh, well, it's only been 6 months. What I wanted her to do was, tell me, first of all, is this normal? Second of all, are there any basic testing that you might do just to see if there's any issues? And she really, honestly, I just felt like kind of blew me off and was like, when it's been a year and you've tried for a year, then we'll consider doing some testing. And honestly, because I felt kind of dismissed, that wasn't a good enough answer for me. And so at that point, I decided to go to another provider. And when I went to this new provider, explained, the situation to him, and he was like, oh yeah, there's like some basic testing that we can do. Let's just go ahead and do that. And that was right off the bat when we discovered that there was an issue. So it wasn't like I even had to go any further into any kind of in-depth, testing. My point here, I would say to listeners is if you're going to a provider and you're not getting the answers that you want, or if you feel dismissed, or if you feel like they're not listening to you, then it's okay to go to somebody else. I mean, I see people all the time that are like, well, I'm scared to leave seeing this person. What are they going to think? And I'm like, it's your health. Like, you have to take your health into your own hands, and you have to feel really comfortable with whoever the provider that you're working with is, that you have to think of it as a partnership. And I certainly didn't feel that way at that time. And am so thankful looking back that I decided, otherwise it would have been, delayed, who knows how much longer. I just, would encourage people to seek out your own solutions. And if that means to go to a new provider, then that's okay.
Yeah. Listen to your intuition. Something was telling you to dig further, and then feeling dismissed, especially when you have a medical background. And then, so you're being able to kind of look further. And some people at that stage would just go, okay. And if you can't be your own advocate, maybe having someone else with you that can again sort of make, be your sounding board, that you're like, okay, make sure that it is time to look for something else. And again, listen to your intuition, that inner voice. And so would you do anything differently in this situation with fertility or on your journey? We'll start with Kari.
Sure. Yeah. I do think everything happens for a reason, and it's not that I would necessarily want to go back and change anything, but I guess if I had to go back and change one thing, it would probably be to just trust more. I know that maybe that's not anything I did technically or medically or whatever it might be, but I just know that if you're going through a season of infertility or of just waiting, I think it's really important to, yes, seek out information and maybe others' opinions or others' help as far as a doctor or something like that. But I do feel that it's a great opportunity for us to look inward and just see what can we do to strengthen our faith? What can we do to make ourselves just, take better care of ourselves? I feel like that's what I wish I would have done better in those first few years when I was trying to get pregnant with my daughter.
Yeah, I think you mentioned before too that you did lean on your faith during that time, and you knew it would work out somehow. Like, can you take us back to that time? Because a lot of people, I just knew somehow I'd be a mother. I didn't quite know how it would happen, but I knew it would happen for me. Even me, given this diagnosis that I would never have my own biological children, I just knew somehow it was going to work. But a lot of people, they can't even see a way forward, and then especially if they've done multiple failed IUIs, IVFs, and it just becomes like, oh my goodness, is this thing even going to happen? And it's hard to even visualize, a pregnant belly, a baby, a toddler, any of that. So how did that work for you?
I'm a Christian, and so I've been going to church prior to trying to start conceiving, but yet whenever I started this journey, you know, I had went through these different stages of just frustration and then not understanding and then maybe just being angry. You know, I'm not really sure why this is not happening. But like I said, I did have that through line of, I know that I'm going to be a mom somehow.
Yeah.
Whether it's not necessarily that I did feel that I was going to conceive myself, but I just knew if I didn't, that God was going to bring a child into my life some way. So adoption or foster or something like that. I just had this, I think he just gives us peace through that. And I know that I had a lot of peace that way. And I think I had to go through all those other emotions to then get to just trusting him in this process. You know, maybe it's not meant to happen right now, even though I really want it to, and I still don't understand. I think he still wants us to trust in those moments. And that's really what strengthens our faith, because we don't know and we don't have all the answers, but he does. And he knows what's best for us as well. So I am very thankful for those 2 years, because my faith did grow exponentially.
Mm-hmm. And so for you in the beginning, it was just a little unsure. And then as you kind of tapped into your faith, it kind of, you got to that inner knowing kind of side of things.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And Julie, what about you?
Yeah, I would say that my faith was definitely a big part of the journey. A lot of uncertainty, a lot of praying, a lot of just waiting, because not knowing, you know, you hear so many people who do IVF and they don't get pregnant. So it wasn't like it was, you know, a guarantee. And it's a lot. I mean, honestly, you know, for the woman, it's a lot to put your body through. You know, there's a lot of, injections that you have to take, and, you know, just different things that you have to do, you know, with IVF, and just kind of not knowing is, you know, what's going to be the end result of this. So, you know, had to really lean into, you know, my faith and relationship with God during that time, and just a lot of prayers, and knowing that he has the best plan for me. And, you know, I believed as well that meant that I was going to have children. Just again, when we don't know the journey ahead, and, you know, it's just about leaning in and trusting, really. So definitely my faith definitely played a big part in that whole journey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And whether it's God, the universe, whatever it is, it's in this, because it's like that whole uncertainty, the ambiguity, and we feel like sometimes powerless, whereas like leaning into that other piece can really give you, as you say, peace. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And so, so Kari, what would you tell someone who is struggling to conceive?
Great question. I would encourage them, if, you know, whatever their higher power is. For me, it's definitely God. And I would just say, lean into that more and try to remain calm. Try not to stress out. Try not to, you know, I know that it's really hard every single month. I just remember this, that you knew you were about to start your cycle and you just hoped that this was the time. And then when it wasn't, that was just such a hard time. And I'm not sure, you know, I wouldn't be naive to think that wouldn't be a hard time for someone, but just to trust that, you know, it's not this month, it might be next month. It's going to happen sometime in the future. Or, you know, or I just know that if you have that desire for a child, I believe that God is going to grant that for you, because he is faithful. So I would just say trust more. I would also say, like I said, lean into your own intuition. During this waiting time, see what you can do to strengthen yourself physically and spiritually and mentally. I feel like it's such a great time, especially for me. I didn't have any children, so I really tried to do things that I know I wouldn't be able to do necessarily for the next few years whenever I did conceive. So whether that's going on a trip, or I actually ran a half marathon, then I went on a mission trip. I tried to do different things like that did stretch me, but also things that I knew I probably wouldn't do after I had kids, the first 2 years at least. So try to get out of your comfort zone that way. And I think you'll be a much stronger person, no matter if it's next month or if it's next year or whenever it is. And that's invaluable. So I say strengthen yourself in the wait.
Absolutely. Yeah, I did the same thing where we just did a lot of traveling, and it was a lot of fun. And
yeah.
Although we travel with kids, it's a different kind of travel. But yeah, being able to, because I think a lot of times in this journey we get stuck. Everything else is like we're waiting and we don't really participate in our life. And whereas that actually, by participating in our life, then that kind of relieves the stress, and then it's like this vicious cycle. So yeah, just really
definitely. So keep moving forward no matter what, right? That's kind of what you're saying. Just keep moving.
Absolutely.
And get in service. Try to make it not about yourself. Try to, you know, help serve somebody else, that always helps as well.
Absolutely. And Julie, what about you?
Yeah, I definitely agree with everything that Kari said. But something that you just said brought something to mind, talking about getting stuck. It kind of made me think of, what we focus on expands. So if we're, constantly focused on, why isn't this happening? Why am I not getting pregnant? What is wrong with me? What is going on? Then, you're probably, you're going to be under more stress, undoubtedly. Your mindset's not going to be where it needs to be. You're definitely not going to enjoy the journey, right? Which is really what it's all about, is enjoying the journey, no matter what the journey looks like, even if it's hard. Because, there are times in life, whether it's fertility or something else, that, the journey isn't quite enjoyable, but what can we learn, during that time period? So the other thing that I would say is to really look at things like stress and sleep, and maybe, you're not treating your body in the best way in those areas. So, where can you eliminate some stress? Where can you maybe gain a little bit more peace in your life? Maybe it's something like, incorporating some meditation, just kind of taking time out to, relax and I mean, sometimes we have so many thoughts in our head and so much going on that's creating even more, stress on our bodies. And I think it's so fascinating to me. And I'm glad that there's becoming a little bit more awareness around this, of the effects of stress on our body. I mean, stress can literally cause just a host of diseases, and just that unbalance in the body. And then also sleep. Like, I feel like, a lot of people aren't getting the proper amount of sleep, and we know that's where our body rebuilds and rejuvenates. And, things like hormones aren't going to be in balance if we're not getting the proper amount of sleep. So I think those two areas, of course, in addition to what you're putting into your body and, and moving your body every day. But I think those two areas a lot of times are ones that people don't think about or don't focus on, that may be key in what's going on. So, look at stress and sleep for sure.
Yeah, we work with people for months on sleep hygiene, because it is like a foundational pillar. And if you're getting up multiple times to go to the bathroom, or you can't sleep, you can't fall asleep, you wake up, it's disrupted, you get the dog in there, there's, it's the light from the street lights coming in, like all these things. Maybe you're looking at your screens before bed. So really, which can impact your melatonin production. So yeah, like all that sleep hygiene is huge. And stress, kind of getting honest about those mental, emotional stressors, and saying, wait a minute, where can I pull back? Where can I say no? And yeah, I like you saying about the journey, because that journey thing, I call it the fertility journey, because infertility kind of has, negative connotations, but that journey comes up in all aspects of your life. Anything you're trying to do, it's like a journey, and sort of enjoy where you are, instead of, because I had this whole impatience thing, I will push forward and bang my head against the wall, and it's like painful the whole time, instead of saying, yeah, what lessons can I learn, and where can I pivot, and how do I move along the way? And it's not necessarily how I envision it, but at least I'm moving forward.
Yeah. And I think you bring up a good point too, in saying that infertility has kind of a negative connotation to it, but I think it's so important. And I love what you're doing and sharing, this information with everyone, because it really shouldn't. If more of us shared our journey and people knew, this is so much more common than you think, and people weren't maybe embarrassed to share it, or, other women would feel, maybe less stressed about the situation. I mean, honestly, because I think sometimes people don't want to share it because they think, this means, something's wrong with me.
Broken.
Does that make sense? So, I think more awareness around it and more people talking about their story is just key.
Absolutely. Yeah, it is like the taboo, and people, and also it is, some people just don't feel ready to share. So share when you feel ready, and with that trusted person, like Brene Brown says, share your story with someone who deserves to hear it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. The more we talk about this, the more it raises and starts the conversation. Absolutely. And so now I kind of just want to talk a little bit about some of your favorite things you'd like to recommend, be it, and we'll start with Kari. So a book, a website, an app, a documentary, anything that you are obsessed with right now that you'd just like to chat about.
Sure. Let's see. There's lots of things that I love. So we've already talked about essential oils. So I don't delve too deep into that. Different podcasts that I love. Let's see. I love to listen to Whole Fit Talks. She's actually in doTERRA, but she has lots of great health information and life information, leadership as well. Books. I'm reading one right now that's really great is The Rhythm of Life. I think it's by Matthew Kelly. It just is a great book to kind of push you out of your comfort zone and just make you look at your habits and the way that you are living your life kind of as a whole, which I feel like is a great wrap up to a few other books that I've read. So that's a really good one. I'm actually doing a little mini Whole30 reset right now.
Oh.
So I'm all about fruits, vegetables, meats. So I was all about some treats last month. So this month you got to get back on course. So that's kind of the zone that I'm in right now. And at the time of this recording, it was a new quarter. It's a new month. It's the mid-year mark. So it's a great time to look at, what kind of goals I had for the year and where I'm at with those. So that's kind of what I'm doing right now as a whole.
Yeah, they say to do those resets once a quarter to kind of look at your diet and what, where can you tweak it. So the podcast was Whole Fit Talks, and the book you like is Rhythm of Life by Matthew Kelly.
Yes.
Awesome. Okay. And Julie, anything you like to, a documentary, a book, an app?
Yeah, sure. So, well, I get asked this question a lot about websites and where to, get good sound information that's, more in the holistic realm. And I love Dr. Mercola and I love Dr. Axe. I mean, those two, I feel like they're, I feel like they give some good information, research-based, which is important, to me being in the medical profession, but it's broken down where anybody can understand it. You don't have to be a medical professional. So those are actually two of my go-to websites. If I'm looking, something up, then I'll see what they have to say about it. So I would recommend those. A podcast I listen to a lot is Lori Harder's podcast. It's called Earn Your Happy. It's really about, it's not necessarily business. I listen to some business and leadership podcasts, but it's really about life in general and how we can be a better version of ourselves and really kind of go after what you want in life. So it's a lot of inspirational content. I really just love her in general. So I listen to her podcast a lot. I am right now, going back through, this is the second time I've done this book. It's called Mirror Work. I think it's by Louise Hay.
Yeah, Louise Hay. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, it is, right? Okay, I was trying to remember. But it's about really developing a better relationship with yourself. And it gives you kind of daily, you're basically kind of reframing your thoughts and retraining your subconscious by the way that you talk to yourself, which is a new concept for a lot of people. And I know for, probably, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, I didn't really had never even thought about the concept of how you talk to yourself. And then once you recognize that, you're like, oh my gosh, subconsciously, I say these things to myself all day. And a lot of it, for a lot of people, including myself, are things that you would never say to someone else, and it's like, why would we be that unkind to ourselves? Her book, I'm really enjoying. Like I said, this is the second time that I've gone through it, and it has like a daily, it has affirmations, it has journaling, kind of prompts to journal about, which I like. I'm trying to do more journaling. That's hard for me to make myself sit down and do that. So that's something that I'm always working on.
Awesome. Yeah. Dr. Axe, basically, if there's any kind of thing in the health field, he has written a long blog about it with tons of information, tons of research. So yeah, that's one of my go-tos as well. And so Earn Your Happy, that was a podcast he recommended. And then Mirror Work. Yeah. With Louise Hay. I have some of my clients do that too. If it's like some self-love and I do it as well. And it's kind of, you look in the mirror and you're supposed to look deep in your eyes and say I love you. And then when you can first do that, you might just want to peek around the corner and I love you, because it seems so weird to look deep into your own eyes and say that, right? You can say it to other people, but to say it to yourself. So that whole self-love thing is cool. And journaling, yeah, definitely. That's one. I know I've got off the journaling track for a while. I was really into it. And then now I'm doing more meditation. As I say that, I haven't meditated in a week and a half, but yeah, it's just like to do those habits, right? That you get into, and the journaling is kind of one of those things where I started using my journal as my to-do list, which then that was not working out. Yeah.
Oh no, I was just going to say, no, I understand that difficulty in kind of, but like you said, it's just a habit. And I'm trying to look at it more as anchoring one habit to another habit that I already have that is well established. So
Absolutely.
Like for me in the morning, because that makes it a little bit easier. For me in the morning, I always, first thing that I do when I get up is pray, and then I do my devotion and I read some in my Bible. And so I'm trying to do the journaling right after that, because that's like a non-negotiable. I always do those things. So anchoring it to that. And then speaking of meditation, I'm trying to get better about meditation as well. And I'm trying to anchor that to my workouts, because workouts are a non-negotiable. I know I'm going to do them no matter what, and doing that after my workout. I find that it's a little bit easier if we can anchor one habit to another.
I agree. Yeah. I remember Dr. Mark Hyman talking about this, where he's like, I wanted to do some push-ups. And he's like, I know I always have a shower. So before the shower, I would do 10 push-ups. And then I did more as but it's sort of that thing where you always have a shower, you always brush your teeth, and then add it afterwards. Exactly. Okay. And then is there a success story you'd like to share with, I don't know if you have anything around pregnancy or hormone health. I'll go to Kari first.
Well, I'd say probably when I conceived my son would be my greatest success story as far as hormones were related. But I've definitely seen where my cycle has evened out since his birth. And also, really, I said that I was so much more well supported during that pregnancy and after. So, I just remember after I had my daughter, I just couldn't sleep and I was anxious, and, I had just cried a lot. That's normal, but yet if I'd have had some tools to help with that, I found it would have just been so much easier and a better experience. So I definitely was very thankful to have those after my son, and saw a really big difference through pregnancy and birth and after, when having those tools to use.
Great. And Julie, what about you?
Yeah. So, I mentioned my kind of hormone balance issue. And so I'm thankful that I was able to kind of get that worked out. But also another thing that just came to mind is I mentioned eating like a lot of legumes and things like quinoa and all that. And sometimes when we're eating things that are healthy, but we still don't feel well, we have to then look and question, there could be tons of things going on, but have to question, because everybody's body chemistry is so different. Is this food that I'm eating actually something that agrees with my body and my body type? And I think for a long time, I couldn't get my head around that. I actually was, after we did a cleanse. This was 4 or 5 years ago, and I was vegan for about, 8 months or so after that cleansing. I just kind of maintained sort of that diet or eating pattern. So that meant, of course, eating a lot of legumes and eating a lot of, quinoa and things like that, to get protein in. And I could not understand why I kept having it was like brain fog, and I would even experience like dizziness, and I just could not, bloating. And I was like, what in the world? And because those are quote healthy things, right? But then, once I decided to make some modifications in my diet, I recognized that it was those things that were causing me to feel that way. So the point here is just because something is healthy doesn't mean that it's 100% right for you and your body. So I would just encourage people to, again, listen to your body. Don't try to subscribe to just one way of eating or diet plan. Experiment and see what works best for you. So, changing that, I would say, is a success, because I felt so much better after I decided to really listen to my body and change some of the things that I was putting in it.
Yeah. And a lot of times we think, because the vegan diet or plant-based diet or paleo or keto or whatever it is has worked for someone. Right. It's worked for someone. They felt fabulous, but is it right for us? And those seemingly healthy foods, we look at doing a food sensitivity test to kind of dig it in further, but also the elimination diet and seeing how you feel on the foods, like listening to those symptoms. It's like, your body's trying to tell you something. So to clue into them. And sometimes we're like, oh, we just ignore it and think it's normal. So awesome.
Yes.
And great. So, and you also have a free download for the listeners. So it's the top 3 habits to upgrade your health. And they can get that at anaturalshift.com/programs/top 3 habits. And what can they expect in that ebook that you have?
Yeah, so there's actually a mini workout in there.
Oh, cool.
There are some healthy recipes in there, because it's really what we believe are, 3 of the top health habits are what you put into your body, moving your body every day, and then natural tools. And so there's some information on essential oils in there as well.
Great. Awesome. So that's, top 3 habits to upgrade your health, and get it at anaturalshift.com, and we'll have a link in the show notes. And yeah, thanks so much for coming on, ladies. It was fun to interview both of you. And I just love how you've made you have that conventional background, but made the shift to natural health, and really taking this and really educating and spreading the word. So thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you for having us. It was a lot of fun.
I don't know whether you've heard, but I'm offering some spaces in my calendar for Supercharge Your Fertility Discovery Calls. So this call is for you if you're ready to get pregnant naturally or improve your chances at the fertility clinic. We take a functional approach to fertility. It's the future of conventional medicine. So there's a reason that so many medical professionals who are trying to conceive work with us. The approach is rooted in science. So the call is for both you and your partner. Go to FabFertile, FabFertile.com, and click on Book a Free Call. Then you'll be booked in and ready to spend 30 of the most valuable minutes ever on your fertility. So that's FabFertile, FabFertile.com, and click on the link to book a free call.